Hello, welcome back to Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger. The date is August 16, 2020. I've had an emotionally draining and stressful kind of weekend. My cat, Tiger, has been very lethargic, maybe suffering from the heat, and he has not eaten anything for 3 days. Tiger is 15 years old, so he is not a young cat, and uh, I am frankly very worried about him. So by tomorrow, if he is still this way, I'm going to take him into the vet and, well, hope for the best. And maybe it is because I had such an emotionally draining and stressful weekend that you may find today's video a little bit pointed, a little bit snarky, a little bit edgy, however you would put it. And if so, I will apologize that my uh, control of my inner fire is not as good as it usually is. And I hope that those of you who watch this will not be offended by what I have to say today. I'm just letting the airplane go by so you guys can actually hear me. You have no idea how often we have to do this during the filming of documentaries, Johnny Tiger and Night Strike documentaries. Have to re-say and re-record and do things over and over again because an airplane came by. Ever since the beginning of the whole Johnny Tiger project and my slow gaining of what little notoriety I enjoy today, ever since I guess 2012, I have constantly hear from relatives and friends and acquaintances telling me that so and so are not happy with me, and so think I am full of it, and so think that, well, what is so special about that Johnny Tiger guy? He's just a thug who teach people how to fight. I can do that too. What does he have that I don't? What's so special about this guy? Normally, when I hear these comments, I just shrug my shoulder and move on. Because I've been kicking around in performing and entertaining enough years to know that no matter how good you are, and no mistaken about it, I think I'm great. But that is really up to you guys. It doesn't really matter how great I think I am. Um, but you can be really, really great. You can be the president of a whole country, and people are still going to find things wrong with you. And let's just step back and think about this for a second. Yes, there are good presidents and there are bad presidents. But to be president, the act itself, to be there, that is already the accomplishment of a lifetime. I mean, how many of us can actually say that we were a president, even a bad president, in our lifetime? How many of us can even say we were a mayor of a city in our lifetime? Probably not many, especially people who are watching this, because I imagine if you were a mayor of the city, you wouldn't be wasting time on YouTube listening to a totally blind and half deaf aging martial art instructor talk crap. But be that as it may, my point is, I long came to the realization that no matter how good or how great I get, There's always going to be naysayers. It's like no matter how good the weather is, it's going to have rain a few days. You have to, it's part of nature. So having a few naysayers, about 10% in most cases, if you have 100 people liking you, it's almost certain that it's going to be at least 10 people disliking you. Having those naysayers is kind of a normal part of the course. But today, I feel like addressing this. And maybe some of you will run into these people who say things like, "Well, I don't think much of that Johnny Tiger guy. I don't see what's so special about him. What does he have that I don't? Why is what makes him so great?" And maybe you will have an answer for them. Although I advise the best thing to do is probably to just do what I usually do, shrug and move on. Because Johnny Tiger is not special enough to worth it for you to get into an argument with your friend about. Now, when someone says what makes that guy so special, well, I don't really know if I'm special or not. I think I am, but that is neither here or there. But when they say, "What do you have that I don't? What does Johnny Tiger have that I don't?" Well, I can actually give you several answers there. Have you tried being totally blind and partially deaf and still managed to be quite a good martial artist, at least good enough to take a silver medal for Canada in a world event? I have. Have you tried doing 1,000 push-ups in under 2 hours in addition to the same amount of burpees and sit-ups and squats just to pass an exam to get certified? I have. Have you grown up with a psychotic father and a stepmother who tried to kill you and actually murdered your pet? I have. Have you been addicted to cigarette and or alcohol and then one day quit the addiction cold turkey just like that and never looked back? I have. Have you gone from someone who can't even do a 200-meter dash without dying to someone who can run non-stop for 10 kilometers in under an hour? I have. Have you tried holding down an 18 years relationship despite of the relationship was not all that strong or satisfactory? I have. And no, I don't mean that if you had kids together, because then you're kind of in there for the responsibility and stuff like that. But just a relationship, no kids, no string attached, but you stayed with it because of your sense of responsibility and obligation. Have you been the sickest, smallest kid in school as a child, and then grow up, turn into someone who is known for his physical and fighting abilities? I have. Have you been able to drop everything you are doing and fly all the way across the world to a country you've never been to before just to keep a promise. I have. I can go on and on all night long of all the crazy, crazy things I've done, and that might not even cover it. But I think you guys get the point. Am I really that special? Probably not. Am I living in a mansion and making millions of dollars every day? I'm a long way off. In fact, I'm constantly hovering near the poverty line. But in this short, not even yet 40 years of lifetime, I have lived, I have fought, I have battled, I have reached for greatness. So let's talk about greatness. From an early age, my father told me, handed me the four must have rules, the four rules of being great. Now, this might be ironic because some people would say, well, your dad wasn't really all that great. But that is really depending on how you look at him. I think my dad was great. I think my dad made a few wrong choices that made him fall from grace, made him fall from being great. But there's no debate about it, no argument about it. When he was at the top of his game, he was great. I mean, we are talking about a guy who left Taiwan when he was in his 20s with only $1,000 in his pocket. No passport, nothing. He was smuggled into Hong Kong with only the suit on his back and $1,000 in his pocket, nothing else. And he was able to come back to Taiwan about 10 years later, being a multi-millionaire. Now, if that doesn't constitute greatness, I really don't know what would. So, giving credit where credit is due, he was a great man. He really was. Despite me and him having so many arguments, so many things that we dislike about each other, despite of how I feel about him now, I will say my father was a great man, and I'm proud to be the son of someone who could achieve that level of greatness. Because I am thinking that if he could do it, I can do it. I'm not going to become a multimillionaire, but I feel that my attempt at greatness will come to fruition in other areas in my life because I am his son. And what he could do, I can do it too in my own fashion. But I kind of digressed there. From an early age, my father handed me the four rules of greatness, and I'm going to share them with you today. Because if you keep your mind on these four things, then you can be great. My father said, a great person can suffer pains other people won't stand to suffer. A great person can suffer pains other people won't stand to suffer. What does that mean? That means for most people, staying away from pain is a natural instinct. Let's talk about it in a fitness term. A lot of people, when they are working out, when they're doing something, they will do it until it's no longer fun. When it starts to hurt, when when it starts to injure them, they will stop. But it is the people that will push past that, the people that will keep going back despite of being hurt, despite of the pain, that will become great. Case in point, going back to my own experience with martial art, I will have you guys know that being blind and being partially deaf, I take way more hits than I uh, land hits, especially in my earlier years. I've suffered some humiliating experience training, sparring, competing. I had my collarbone cracked. I had my arm dislocated. I had my knee busted. I had my ankle almost broken. I had my ribs cracked. Every single time, it took uh, months to heal and then have to recover from the psychological trauma of that kind of injury. Every single time I went back. If I didn't, then I wouldn't have been there to compete for Canada on the world stage when I did. Second rule of being great: he who wants to be great, he who is great, will do work that other people refuse to do. And that one is very simple. If you look at famous UFC fighters that are out there making millions of dollars, these are people who train and eat and sleep MMA. That's their whole life. And they didn't start out making millions of dollars. In the beginning of their life, they probably made like $200 a fight, sometimes nothing. But they clocked in the time. They quit school. They say, okay, I'm going to do MMA, and that is, I'm going to do that 8 hours a day. No matter how sore I am, I'm going to get up and do it tomorrow. Even if I don't get paid, I'm going to go do it. Even if I have to work a job at 7-Eleven at minimum wage, I am going to go do my MMA. People who have dedication, people who have conviction can be great. Because in the end, it's not about talent, but more about how much work are you willing to put in. If other people will only put in 2 hours at the gym 3 times a week, but you put in 8 hours at the gym every day, you will be much greater, much faster. Number three, he who is great will attempt things that other people think is foolish. He will attempt things that other people think is foolish. And that goes without saying. If great people didn't attempt things even when other people thought was foolish, we wouldn't have airplane today. We wouldn't have a telephone because these ideas in the very beginning were laughed at by everybody. Number four, he who is great can see things that other people can't see. And obviously, we're not talking about seeing it with your eyes, but to have vision in your mind. It's not enough to just work hard. It's not enough to just have crazy ideas, but you need to have the vision. Where are you going to take this? Where are you going to take this to improve upon it? And how are you going to market this? Having crazy idea is actually not that hard. I think every one of us have had crazy ideas in our life. But how many of us actually found it in ourselves to put them into action and then have enough vision to see them through, to see how far we could take them? So having the drive to suffer, having the ability to suffer, having the drive to work, and having unique ideas, you also need to have vision. You need to see the potential in things that other people don't. I'll give you guys two examples of crazy among the dedication and greatness in people that I personally know that really inspired me to believe that my father knew what he was talking about. My father told me that one of the reasons he was able to make multiple millions of dollars in Hong Kong as an illegal immigrant was his willingness to clock in the time, to do some extra work, to really get to know his client. He was working as a tour guide for a traveling agency, while other tour guides just were there to do their job. Other tour guides would just take the customers around and show them things. My dad went above and beyond. My dad was there with an umbrella when it rained. My dad was there with a fan when it was too hot. My dad was there with water whenever the client looked thirsty. Even after my father became rich, he still needed to establish connections with other businessmen and politicians. And he told me this one instance that really drove it home how dedicated he was. My dad said there was this uh, big time business owner that he was trying to establish a connection with. And no one seemed to be able to get this guy to commit to what my dad was wanting to do. So my father drove up to this guy's home. This guy lived in northern Taiwan. My dad lived in southern Taiwan, so it was an 8-hour drive back then. My dad drove up there and parked outside this gentleman's home. Uh, 2 in the morning. 2 in the morning, my dad arrived there, and he sat in his car. He looked at the guy's house, and as soon as he saw that there was movement in the house, that the light came on, it was 6 o'clock. He was sure that people were waking up in the house. He drove over to the nearest breakfast place and bought breakfast and coffee and brought it over to the guy personally. And didn't even mention business. My dad basically told the guy, "Hey, I was just in the area and I remember you live here, so I thought you would appreciate some breakfast and coffee." No mention of business, no mention about, "Hey, I've been trying to talk to you about this business venture," nothing like that. My dad kept this up for 4 months before he breached the idea of a business venture. That was crazy amount of dedication. It was the kind of thing that he was willing to do to get what he needed. And that was one of the reasons why my father was able to be a great person in his lifetime. Greatness is not just in the ways of accomplishment or building muscles or martial art. Because I know that some people, after listening to this very lengthy monologue, might be thinking, well, I don't care about being great. I don't want to be an overachiever. No, I'm fine just the way I am. Well, if you feel you're fine just the way you are, that's cool. That means you're already pretty great. But I think no matter what we do, There's always room for a little bit of greatness because people like great people. People like great things. So be able to, if you are able to give a little bit of greatness to someone, you'll find that you become a lot better at maintaining your social circle. I'm talking about being a great friend. One of my best friends is a guy whom I've been friends with ever since high school. We've known each other for over 20 years. Now, he is a bit of a, well, frankly speaking, he is a bit of a weirdo. He is a bit of a bum sometimes. He is a bit of a uh, unsavory, uncouth, and I could go on and on. But just in case he ever watched this video, I'm not going to go on and risking annoying him or angering him. But let's just say this guy to everyone else but me, including his own parents. He's just a guy. He's just a poverty-stricken guy who smoked too much marijuana and do too little work. But to me, he is that great friend. And I'll tell you why. Back in the early 2000s, when I first started going to university, there was a there was one year when the bus driver locally went on strike, and I was having such a hard time getting to the university. Taking taxi was getting really, really expensive. So, for the most part, I tried to study at home and just only appear when it's a very important lecture or an exam. And this was one such time when I really had to be there. So I called my friend and said, "Look, I know this is kind of bit of uh, a bit much to ask, but I know you have to work. But do you mind giving me a ride to the university campus before you go to work? Because I honestly I'm broke. I don't have the money for taxi, and it's such a long way. It took us about almost an hour to drive there. He picked me up 6 in the morning and then dropped me off on campus. And when he dropped me off, he asked me, "How are you going to get home?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I'll find a way. Don't worry. I'll find a way." And honestly, I believe I would find a way. I always found a way. Hitch a ride with a professor or something. I did that a few times. 4 hours later, I came out of the building. My friend came up to me and he said, "Are you done? Are you ready to go home?" And I was shocked. I didn't expect him there. I thought you went to work. I thought you went to work. What are you doing here? He said, "Oh no, no. I mean, what's work? I just called my boss and told him I'm sick. I just can't bear the thought of you might not have a way to get home or you might not have a safe way to get home. So I thought, oh, what's work? And friends more important. So I called in sick and I waited here for you uh, and here you are. If I wasn't such a tough, charismatic, impressive, and young, and hard-headed, and stubborn, and great-looking guy, if I wasn't all that, I would be so touched I could cry on the spot. I was so touched by that gesture. No other friend had ever done that for me. So to other people, he may just be a guy, but to me, he's a great friend. because he's willing to do things that other people are unwilling to do. So to recap, he who is great will suffer pains that other people won't suffer, do works that other people won't do, attempt things that other people think is foolish, and see things where other people see nothing. Thank you for checking out today's Soul Search Sunday. I will be back again tomorrow for Music Monday. For now, have a good night.